Hello, welcome to you and welcome to me. It's time to talk about this notebook that I had made. So I've been using a planner every day since the start of 2017 until now, which is almost the end of 2023. And I've, for most of that time, have been drawing out all of my own designs in notebooks. I started out in a, I think, kind of pocket-sized rhodiarama notebook and moved up to a rhodiarama notebook that was just smaller than A4, I think. And then for the past, I think just this year, have used a Hobonichi cousin avec. But the problem with my own drawn out notebooks was that I had to draw out everything, and that got kind of tedious after I don't know how many years, like 6 or 7 or something. And the problem with Hobonichis is that I like to stick 1 million things inside them and they end up gigantic, and also there's just not enough room for me in an A5 book. So I saw recently that Megan Rhiannon had made a video where she designed her own notebooks and had them printed, and they were to sell as well as for her to use personally. So I decided that for my own personal use, I would try designing my own planner after looking at the website and seeing that the price would be comparable to buying a Hobonichi for the next couple of years. Instead, I thought I would try to make my own notebook that works better for me. So the company that I used is called Printwork. They're a UK-based company who make all their own paper and print on all of their own paper products. And this is the first time I've ever done, I was going to say I don't know if it counts as design work, but I guess it does, because I literally came up with this from the trial and error of however many years of notebook using I've had, and then feedback from working in the Hobonichi cousin for the last year. And basically came up with what I hope is going to be the best amalgamation of everything that I've learnt from the various sizes of books into the best that I could make with the, is it constrictions? Like the limits of the printing company, basically. So this is an A4 book, and the maximum number of pages on their like stock notebook printing option was 60. So I had to figure out how to fit all of my spreads that I want to use across the year into a number that is divisible by a sensible number of months and works within a notebook. So basically I ended up with this book which covers 2 months, so I'll use 6 of them per year. I guess a quick note before I get any further, in case that means that people aren't interested in hearing about the rest of it. I'm only making these for personal use. I don't have the ability right now to either sell digitally or physically for planned designs. And I know a lot of videos similar to this are basically introducing a product. So I wanted to say that up front that this is not a product, sorry. I just wanted to show you this cool thing that I made. So I guess I'll just talk through the pages that I included and show you what it's like inside. This has a, I think 5mm. Yeah, it printed pretty perfectly, 5mm grid that I generated from a website online that I will put the link in the description. I think also perhaps that was a link that Megan Rhiannon shared as well. So I based all of my pages on a grid and then put a white border around the edge just to make it a bit more forgiving, I guess, print-wise. Like I said, I've never had anything printed before, so I wanted to make sure that my designs were going to be as error-free as possible. And I thought that if I give myself more of a safe zone, basically, than is advertised, then I should be pretty confident that the variation between pages and between notebooks will be like not something that I'm annoyed by. So one of the things that I haven't got on well with about the Hobonichi is that I like to stick loads of things inside. So this is my inside cover of the avec for this 6 months of the year. I collect loads of stuff from everywhere. I get like post from friends and Patreon subscriptions and stuff like that, and I just love to keep all of this for like memory keeping, and there's just not enough room for the amount of like stuff and notes that my friends send me even. So one of the things that I wanted to prioritise in my own book was a larger size and more blank spreads so that I can stick more stuff in. For these books, the Hobonichi, I did try to split up the amount of stuff that I keep into these notebooks and a separate notebook, because they also bulk up loads if you are like me and stick in photos to pretty much every of the daily spreads. So I wanted to make sure that basically these would be as perfect as is possible to make within the constraints. So my first page is basically blank for collecting stuff. Then this is a kind of future overview. So the left-hand side here is the months of 2024 and then 2025. I think I will add more annotations as I go. Like, I wanted to keep this as blank as possible so that it was as versatile as possible. I also went into this trying to make my designs as imperfect as possible while also being like a level that I was happy with. So things like some of the lines go over, things aren't exactly straight, although there is, I don't know if I mentioned that I made these page designs in Procreate. There is an option in Procreate to make your lines straight perfectly, but I didn't want to give myself the expectation of things like perfect straight lines or perfect writing. Most of these are first draft pages. I didn't erase that much or delete that much. I'd already had in my head the rough idea of the kind of design pages that I wanted to make, and I did print off a copy just on my regular printer of quite a few of the spreads, just to do kind of the first degree of quality control, basically making sure that things on a physical piece of paper were where I was expecting them to be drawn digitally, if that makes any sense. Just making sure my ideas translated into an actual physical form. I think the main thing that I was concerned about was line weight. I originally started in Procreate using one of the stock brushes. I think it was the monoline brush, but I wasn't particularly happy with how that worked, and I couldn't find any other stock brushes that I particularly liked. So one of the first steps of this whole process for me was learning how to make brushes in Procreate, and also learning how to use Procreate as well. I think this was maybe one of the like second or third thing that I ever used Procreate for, so I was basically learning as I went. And yeah, so I made my own monoline brush basically to make sure I could get the line weights that were consistent and as fine as I wanted, and also to control the like feedback as you're drawing, to make it as similar to the actual pen that I use, which is a Uniball Signo DX in 0.38. I wanted it to be as close to this basically as is possible, but digitally. So that was quite a big digression from what I was actually talking about. Basically, first spread is future log for what will be the current year when I start using these in January 2024, and then the next year in January 2025. Then I have this smaller version of the monthly log, which I'm intending to use for basically, because these books only cover 2 months, these will be the like future 2 months, so that I have an idea of what is coming up when I'm working towards the end of one of these books. Again, everything is very minimally labelled, and as loath as I was to make these generic month sizes, I wanted to make them all like exactly the layout of the month, so I wouldn't have all of these extra boxes. That wasn't particularly possible in a book that is going to spread as over as long an amount of time as this is, if that makes sense. So these designs needed to be versatile for 2 years. So the next page I have on the left is for, I guess kind of like habit tracking, but they are habits that I do that are to enrichment sounds like such a silly way to put it, but that's kind of how it is in the vocabulary online at the moment. Basically stuff that I try to do to improve my day-to-day life. So this box will have things written across it this way up basically. So it's things like using my planner, going outside, talking to friends. This is modelled off of the Hobonichi logs here. So I basically fill in every square that corresponds with the date. As you can see, I've got 1 to 31 along here, exactly the same as this. And then just log basically what I'm getting up to day to day. On the right hand side, this is a blank tracker for what I'm reading and watching. So this is the classification of the thing. So for books, it will be a new book or an existing book basically, because I can tell from the other stuff whether it's fiction, non-fiction, stuff like that. This is for the date that I started it. This is for the date that I finished it. And then this for books will be the title of the book and the author. And for TV shows will be the title of the show. So like I said, I have one for books and one for what I'm watching. This is what my monthly spread looks like. So this is basically identical to the spreads that I used to use in my Rhodia, just smaller than A4 books basically. So on the left hand side is the monthly calendar overview where I fill in any things that I'm doing basically. This is mainly for activities. This space I usually use to write in the playlist that I'm listening to that month, and also to stick in any other decoration stuff. And then this is another tracker that I use for physical therapy things. So there's 4 things that I do pretty much every day, and my separate physical therapy tracker is on a calendar that I don't have in these books, so that I can see the whole thing at once basically. But this again has 31 spaces, and I can fill in kind of bullet journal style-ish, so each square gets filled in to the degree that I complete the tasks. I was going to write them in, but I figured that if my physical therapy stuff evolves across the next 2 years, I wanted to make sure that I could, I wasn't locked in to something basically. So again, these are kind of minimal for space to grow and change basically. Then on the right hand side, I have things that I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So each day I will write down a line's worth of things that I'm anticipating basically, just to try and keep in the practice of being curious and interested and excited in the day. I, at the moment, am basically at home by myself pretty much every day because of my health stuff. So having a practice of a habit of I guess noticing and appreciating stuff and making sure that I'm going out of my way to try and see as broad a perspective on things is good for me basically. So I wanted to make sure that I have this as a good focus. And then at the bottom I have trackers for whether I'm going outside, and again this box is filled in to varying degrees based on the activity that I'm doing. So whether I'm going out in the garden or whether I'm actually going out for a walk, for example, would be 2 different degrees of shading. And then a couple for the weather, so sun and blue sky and rain or cloudy, get filled in quarters based on when I wake up, just before lunch, early afternoon, and then how the day ends. So the next page is my second monthly spread for this book, and then the weekly spreads start. So I much prefer the vertical layout to a horizontal one. but I do also appreciate this extra space at the top for some like running list style things with the days of the week across the top, and then down the side the list of tasks. And also this blank space to the side is usually where I stick in photos. I tend to print photos at a 4cm square size, so I wanted to make sure that all of my columns were big enough to accommodate that, and I think that worked. Yeah, so the columns are 5cm, so I have space to stick them in with 1/2 centimetre on each side, which is very similar to what I was doing in my Rhodia books. So we have the columns for each day of the week, plus a notes column on the left. Are they equal? Yeah, so within the grid they're equal. I don't know if you can see the grid from there, but then there's a little gap on around all of the sides basically that is not gridded. So then along the bottom I have this section blocked off for like other things that I'm trying to pay attention to. So normally that is things like talking to friends, going outside again, but recorded in a slightly different way that's significant to me, and making things. And I leave a gap at the bottom of every page because on my weekly spreads I decorate each month with a different colour scheme and a different washi tape. It helps me to differentiate the like chunks of time, if that makes sense. So as I flip through, each month has a different colour and a different tape associated with it. So I wanted to make sure that I left enough space for 3 boxes for my trackers, and then 3 boxes and a little extra space to make sure I could put my tape there to decorate each month. So then on the left hand side at the top are my chores that I do each week. I did write these ones out because these haven't changed in years. These are just the things that I find useful to have reminders for, and I like to have them written out like this because it helps me to pace myself across the week and make sure that I'm not overexerting myself all on one day or towards the start of the week, for example, and then doing nothing towards the end of the week. So it's useful for me to have a daily spread for like the whole week at a glance, both like big style and little style on here, so that I can see how things are spread out. And again, I will just fill in, like I outline. Let me show you in here again. So this is something that I've just carried over that I drew up from here and from my previous notebooks beforehand. I draw out basically the, what's it called? Kind of coordinates, but where the space, I mean, if you're looking at this, hopefully you understand what I mean because words elude me, but the day of the week and then the corresponding task. Anyway, it doesn't matter that much, you know what's going on. And then similar, I guess, to these columns is I just draw around the box per task and then shade it in when it's done. And something I'm looking forward to again in having this bigger book is not having to write so small, but I'm planning to do the similar layout, basically just sized up in what's more of an ideal size for me. So then on the right hand side we basically have a blank version of this chores thingy, where I'll just write my things that I want to do across the week along here, and then we'll fill in the corresponding box to the day of the week that I want to do it. I like this system because it means that you can like carry tasks over a lot easier, because if I draw a box, like say for doing a towel laundry on Thursday and I don't do it, then I can literally just draw a box next to it and it doesn't matter. Whereas if I'm writing these all in a list and assigning a day to them, like just more like this, it's not as intuitive for me to see at a glance what I'm supposed to be doing well, when even. It's a lot easier for me to see this at a glance. So then after this, basically there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, there's 10 of. Whoa, what happened there? Something crazy. Yeah, there's 10 weekly spreads because that should accommodate for every single month. In 2024, 2 months never falls across more than 10 weeks in total, if that makes sense. I guess while we're at this centre spread, it is a good time to note that whilst generally I'm really happy with the quality of these books, I did find the binding to be very flimsy. They are just stapled like between my fingers here and between my fingers here. And I'll put a clip in because I took a photo when I first opened them, but I found that they felt very flimsy to open and close. And being as these books are going to be spread across usage for 2 months and then referenced in the future, it just felt like they were going to fall apart, kind of. This was something that I did think about contacting the manufacturer about and seeing if there were any options for binding, but I figured I could sew this myself in like 10 minutes. So instead I just used a hammer and a little nail, I don't have an awl, to like hammer some holes in here and just stitched along the spine. And I'm planning to use a different colour for each month. This was just like 3 strands of embroidery thread. I don't know what this stitch is called because I didn't learn it from anywhere, I just kind of made it up. But I think it's like normally how you would bind a kind of notebook like this. I guess another note, like kind of as I mentioned before about perfection or imperfection, I tried to make sure that I only wrote out everything once. I didn't want to get bogged down in trying to get like perfect writing or perfect layout, so this is literally just my most simple handwriting basically for all of these. I kind of considered using a font for this, and also as an alternative to that using one kind of like style of writing for everything instead of mixing like printed letters and like bubble letters. But this is how I've always done it, and like especially as it's just for personal use, it doesn't matter that sometimes you have like a tiny bit of cursive. I just wanted to make something that was as simple and like not unconsidered but like not overworked, if that makes sense. Like I didn't want to iterate on this too much. I've already done that since like 2017, working through all of my own drawn out notebooks, so I just wanted to like I guess size up is the only thing that I really did. So onto the second half of the books. These are like tracker pages basically, and they are, as you can probably see, extremely minimally laid out. So this is the kind of thing that would make them more versatile if I wanted to change what I'm writing on these pages. But these are like personal trackers that I've been using half of the daily pages in the Hobonichi for. So I'm not gonna like go into too much of what it is, but basically I use half of these Hobonichi daily pages to stick in photos that I took on that day, and half of it to write my like reflections on the day basically. So these pages stay half blank until I reach the end of the month, and then at the end of the month I go through the month's worth of photos, print them all off in one batch, and then cut them out and stick them in based on here. And one of the problems that I was having with the Hobonichi is that I was having so much overflow that I was needing to like tie in these insert pages basically, because I just had too many to fit. And there's also some in my weekly spreads too. So I'm hoping that with this size notebook, most of the photos are going to fit in the weekly spreads, and then I have a ton of blank pages I say a ton, I only have a few, but they're A4, so it seems like a ton comparably to the Hobonichi, to fit overflow in, basically. I want to have it all in one place as much as I can. But what I was actually talking about is these tracker pages, so very basically broken down. On this section, we have the days of the week here. So I'm going to do one line of like something that I did that day that was like positive, or like something that I would do that to make progress, if that makes sense. So this might be like doing physical therapy, or like when I didn't feel like it, or having an extra rest, or something like that. Like something that is basically trying to acknowledge something that I might not like to do, but I know is good for me, if that makes sense. Then on the left here, there's a faint line dividing this kind of roughly into thirds, I guess. So 1/3 on the left and 2/3 on the right. And in the smaller section, I do a bullet pointed list of the activities that I did that day, basically. This differs from how I'm using my tasks in the vertical weekly spreads, because this is more about effort that I've put in rather than tasks that I've achieved. So this is more useful for me if I'm struggling with health stuff, to figure out where my energy is going. So this might be physically demanding tasks or mentally demanding tasks, whereas the things on here, are literally things that I need to get done. This is just a to-do list, basically. Then on the right hand side at the top, I write how many steps I did that day to, again, help me pace myself and manage my health conditions. I'll write what time I woke up and whether I had to take a rest in the day. And then another bullet point on this side that kind of sums up the like distribution of things that I did that day. So again, helps me tell more specifically where my energy is bunching up and spreading out, and trying to make sure on reflection that this is balanced from morning to night, rather than going wild for the start of the morning and then being exhausted for the rest of the day. So this whole kind of spread section is about reflection for me and making sure that I know what's happening. And then there'll be a small gap across the bottom here where I write down like a line of things that I'm grateful for that day. Again, just to be in the habit of having perspective on the day, especially if it was a difficult day. I usually fill in my planner stuff, like this sort of spread, right before I go to bed, and it helps me to kind of reflect on the day and feel more positive about what I'm doing, even if I've had a really awful day and I feel like I haven't managed to do anything because I've just been feeling too ill or too exhausted. Having the things like noting down the positive effort that I've put in and things that I'm grateful for that I've done or that people have done for me helps me to, it sounds a bit dramatic to say to sleep better at night, but it does help me feel better about the day and helps me fall asleep because I'm less sad when I've had a bad day. So again, you've got 10 versions of this to follow the whole 2 months. And then there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blank pages, again, for me to stick stuff in. I often in the back, actually I'm not going to show that because it has, actually I can show this one. I collect like stickers that people put on envelopes for me and stuff like that. I subscribe to Mild May Fox on Patreon and their shop Milktooth Co. They sell a lot of stickers and prints and things like that. So every month I get a sticker from them and they always decorate their envelopes with such great stickers and washi tape. So I like to collect them all and stick them all in the back here. So I'm hoping, well, I definitely will have way more space to do stuff like that. And it just makes me so happy to be able to look back on everything and to see what I've been enjoying this year, or the period of time that the book covers, because I have like all of the collections that I've made. I guess one difference between this book and these is that I made these accordion style like pockets in the back. The rhodiarama notebooks that I used to use had these pockets built in, so I made my own when I switched to Hobonichi. And these are the Leuchttrum, sorry about my bad pronunciation, pen loops. Maybe I'll put one of those on these, I don't know, because they're only 2 months as opposed to 6 months here. And also I don't take my books with me anywhere, partly because I don't go anywhere particularly, and also because I don't need to, because when I'm out I'm generally not doing something that I would need this kind of information that goes in my planner there. If I need a list, then I'll just write it on my phone. So I was thinking that I could just stick an envelope on here. I have these like rainbow coloured ones, so I could maybe put one of these on. Wow, that didn't show the rainbow. Yeah, so I could stick one of these on here like this and be able to put stuff in there, or I might get a different size depending if this is not going to be big enough. But I have like 5 billion envelopes around, so it's fine. Something that I was really excited about with this paper, which I was relieved about, was that I really like how it takes the pens that I commonly use. When I first opened this, it felt very like school notebook-ish. Although the cover is card, it's not super heavy card, so it doesn't feel like super robust. This feels, maybe they're comparable actually, and the difference is just because this one's smaller, well this one's not, so it feels bendier. But yeah, when I first opened the sample delivery for this, I was worried that the paper felt basic, if that makes sense. But I actually way prefer the way that the pens that I commonly use work on this paper than I do with the Hobonichi. I think this paper is very smooth and nice to write on, but I find that the colours wash out. You can see on here, can you see on here actually? Not really. So this is the same pen on the two different papers. That's probably a more fair comparison because that box is slightly shaded. But things show up more vividly on this paper from print work than they do on the, I think it's Tomoe River paper. And I much prefer the vividness on here. I guess I can talk through all of these different pens because I don't know if you'll be able to see them. So this is a Zebra mechanical pencil that I put in, wow, I should have looked this up beforehand. I used this lead in it, 0.7 millimeters, B grade, not B grade, but like B hardness basically. And this is the Pentel high polymer super lead. I think I got this from Cult Pens. That's where I buy pretty much all of my stationery from, like pen wise. So this is the pencil between my hands there. This goes on very smoothly. I tested Biro, again, like Biro's kind of basic, but it's nice to, I mean, I don't need to explain the pros and cons of Biros. Biros exist. This blue is the Pentel, I think it's called BGH3. It's a multi-colour, basically, like pen option. I think I also got this from Cult Pens, and I think you also custom build these, so you like unscrew it and choose the insert colour that you want. So again, these work really nicely on there. I don't have the size written on here, so I will make a note on the screen what size inserts I use, but this like navy colour shows up really nicely. Next one, I don't know if it is like bold enough to show up on camera, but these are the like Staedtler, sorry again for my terrible language skills, fine liners in like a pale grey. Then I did some mild liner swatches. Again, are these? I can't remember the like brand that makes them. A Zebra. Yeah, a Zebra mild liners. Again, I use these for, I will be using them to like highlight the start of every day so that I can carry over my like colour theming, which will help me to differentiate when a month starts like midweek basically. It's useful to be able to tell at a glance when you're changing from month to month. So again, something that I really liked about these was how vividly the mild liners showed up. Then on my second line, I already mentioned this one, but this is the pen that I will be using for the bulk of the writing that I do, and which I have been using for the last year. The Uniball Signo or Sino DX in 0.38. I am going to write all of these in the description as well, so that there is a big list that you can reference. I really like these because I have a lot of problems with my hands. You've probably like seen my joints, but I have hypermobile hands basically. So it's hard for me to grip things and it's painful for me to write. So it's really important to me in a pen that it writes smoothly and without a lot of pressure. And I really like how smoothly these apply, and they don't particularly smudge that much. Like I haven't noticed significant smudging with these, so I'm very happy to have found a good staple there. Then the Pilot G2 07 gel pen. I have these in a few colours and I use these to record the, not that this really matters, but these are what I fill in my like 3 trackers at the bottom with. I have 2 lines that are green and then the middle one is purple. Then the Sakura Jelly Roll. I was kind of disappointed with these because this is the Jelly Roll Moonlight 10, and I just find that they're so thick. But I also have tried out the smaller sizes, and I don't know if I just got faulty ones, but the ink doesn't roll smoothly. So that was why I tried out these, because I love the colours that the Sakura pens come in, but I just really don't like how they write. But nonetheless, I tested it out anyway. Then the dark green is the Pilot G-Tech C4. I use these, oh wait, it's a 0.4. I use these for my physical therapy trackers, alongside a light green one of these as well. And again, like they just all, the point of this basically is that they all write really nicely. Then the other type of felt pens are the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens and Tombow dual tip brush pens. So I think, being as this is probably like an hour long by this point, that I've pretty much talked about everything, although if I forget anything I will write it in the description or maybe record a voiceover, but hopefully I covered everything that I wanted to. Overall, I'm pretty happy with these. I would say 8.5 or 9 out of 10. I think what would make it more perfect is improved binding and thicker cover paper. But those are all minor things, especially being as I can fix the binding myself in minutes, and especially because I'm not going to be taking these out and about with me, so they don't need to be super sturdy. I guess if you were going to take them around, you could maybe put them in a cover or one of those like plastic covers as well. but like it's not a big deal. And I'm planning to decorate the front of these too, so that each month will be different, kind of like with this one, but like cooler. Oh, you can see my first half. This is what I'm talking about with bulk, okay? So this is my first 6 month Hobonichi from this year, and it's ginormous compared to this one so far. We are in the start of November now, so I've got another month and a bit to finish this one. Also, if you haven't seen me talk about it before, this is bicycle bar tape. I have to use a writing slope to write, and because it helps with my joint pain and stuff. And mine is made out of acrylic, and notebooks are really slippery on acrylic. So I figured a relatively cheap way to fix that is a couple of strips of bar tape on the back. And being as it's spread as it is, and being as these covers are relatively sturdy, it doesn't impact me writing on the book at all. Like, you can't particularly like press down, it doesn't impact like the writing having two readers here. So not entirely sure how I'm going to solve that issue for this book, because I think with the like bendiness of these, you probably would notice it on the back here, but I can get crafty, it's fine. So yeah, hopefully I haven't talked about 5 million irrelevant things. Hopefully it was interesting to see on here. This has been a really fun project to work on, especially as my first kind of like design sort of thing. I guess I didn't mention as well, this took me like a few weeks to design, even though I only have, I think I ended up with maybe 11 different pages altogether, including the blank ones. Like I mentioned with my health stuff, I can't work fast or do things for long periods of time. This filming, maybe you can tell that I'm having more trouble finding words now than I was at the start. But like, this is a long period of time for me to do one activity, and it's time to go and have a snack, so I'll stop talking. But yeah, it took me a long time, or it felt, to figure this out, even though I already knew what my pages were going to be like. So I'm happy that the amount of time that I put in has hopefully led to something that's going to be fun to use for the next couple of years. So yeah, I guess I will, maybe when I've used this next year, maybe I'll do a look after the first couple of months. But even this video has taken me maybe a month to film after this arrived, so who knows what kind of timescales we're working with. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing this, and I hope that you're having a good day, and I will hopefully see you for a plant garden video. Well, I don't know when I'm going to edit this, but you know, I'm doing monthly plant videos, so I'll see you then.